Learn the most advanced recruiting techniques. Land the most desirable talent. Launch your company towards massive success. This is the Higher Power Radio Show with Rick Girard.
All right, posting your jobs can be a frustrating exercise, especially when you receive little to no response. Or worse yet, when you receive an onslaught of unqualified applicants. So today is all about how and where to post your jobs to attract the right people. So we're going to geek out on advertising and teach you the right way to utilize postings in your recruitment strategy. Today's quote is, advertising is an environmental striptease for a world of abundance. Any idea who said that, Kelly?
None whatsoever.
Yeah, it's Marshall McLuhan, and apparently he's a Canadian philosopher.
Okay, well we shall.
I didn't know who he was either.
We should look up Marshall after this podcast.
You know, we're gonna do that. I'm Rick Girard. Welcome to the Higher Power Radio Show. Our mission is to help entrepreneurs and business leaders avoid costly hiring mistakes by identifying a specific problem and providing proven tactical solutions to help your company win the right hire. We share insights from top-performing rebel entrepreneurs, disruptors, and industry experts like our guest today, Mr. Kelly Robinson. Kelly is the CEO of RedDot Media. So he spent, almost as long as I have. I'm not going to age ourselves like we just did on First Take.
a long time.
He's been in the staffing and recruitment tech industry for a long time, just like me. RedDot Media is actually a recruitment ad agency with a particular skill in programmatic advertising and helping companies socialize their jobs with their pager platform. Prior to RedDot Media, Kelly founded Broadbean in 2001, which he sold to DMGT in 2008. He launched in the U.S. in 2009, and he led the strategic acquisition by Career Builder in 2014. That's a nice go.
Thank you.
Yeah, you must be proud of that, which makes Kelly the perfect expert for today's topic. Kelly, welcome to the Higher Power Radio Show.
Thank you very much.
All right, great
Thanks
to have you. So today we're going to cover a few things. We're going to cover why your job postings fail. We're going to talk about different ways to advertise, and then we're going to talk about steps to take to implement a programmatic job advertising initiative into your search for talent.
Yep.
Sound good?
Yep. Sounds good to me.
All right. So let's start with the obvious question, which would be, why do job postings fail?
Well, I think they fail for a number of reasons.
Okay.
I think the first thing is, I like to use the word job advert rather than job posting, because I think we as recruiters or people in the talent acquisition space need to focus on that this is actually an advert. This is a commercial. It's a reason why somebody should effectively think about quitting their job and going work for this company. Mm-hmm. And we've got lazy, right? Pre-internet, when recruitment advertising was column inches in the press, it was expensive, and we spent time thinking about what we wanted to write because there was a limited space and what we could say to get somebody to pick up the phone and come talk to us about a job. Now what we do is we take a job description, which is typically from your applicant tracking system or from HR, and it's
or from
2 pages long.
Website.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a sterile list of skills and duties and responsibilities with no real passion or explanation as to why somebody go and work there. And we post that on the internet. And then we go, well, all the people that apply are not particularly relevant. So let's start with that. Let's put some care and attention into what we're actually sending out into the world, what we're asking people for. So I think, they fail for numerous reasons, but let's start with that. Let's think about, what is this company that we're representing or we're hiring for, and why should somebody go and work for this company? So let's start with that.
Okay, so let's start there. I mean, so it's the messaging.
Yep.
Right? Just as a general, everywhere else. Okay, so the messaging bad. What else was wrong?
Okay, so for me, there's like 4 or 5 key things, right?
Okay.
So the first thing is to start with the job title.
Mm-hmm.
You go into any...
Does job title really matter? Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't.
I think it does, because it's the headline. It's the headline that gets you to the person to click on the job, right?
So
if I'm looking at a page of jobs and they all say driver or Java engineer or, salesperson, right? And then there's one that says, I'm looking for an amazing platform engineer required. It's a hook. I want to attract
It's a better
people.
Hook than Java engineer.
Exactly.
Right?
But you know what? We don't do
or
it.
Driver.
We just don't do it. There's just not enough people trying to be creative with their job title. So let's start with that. Let's be creative. Let's think about something that might get people's interest to actually view the job.
So you're talking about marketing then,
Yeah,
right?
of course.
So are you saying that when we're doing recruiting, we should market?
I think if you spend some time and get good at writing job adverts, it's the simplest and purest version of digital recruitment there is, right? Yeah. It's actually magic. I write something, I pay a few bucks, it goes on the internet, and anything from 5 to 200 people say, I might be interested in that. Could we have a conversation? And I want to talk more about I might be interested in that. Could we have a conversation at some point as we go through this? But because I think that's really about how you get the best out of your job advert. But let's start with that. Let's think about the job title. Let's be creative. I've seen some great ones. I've got some examples that we can put in the show notes.
Like content, right? So the content's key here.
Yes.
All right. So, but besides content, let's say you have good content and I'm putting something out there. Not talking about where to post, but really like how do you post it to where you're gaining maximum effectiveness?
So I think that varies very much dependent on the type of job. So if you
does pray and pray work?
I think if you look at the traffic numbers, then you get a good idea of where to look. So let's think about December. I'll just pick December.
Okay.
So you got, and by the way, people always saying, "Oh, job boards are dead." All right. So let's think about this for a minute. Indeed, 415 million visitors in December. ZipRecruiter was in the 65 million range. Then you come down to the more kind of traditional brands, the career builders and monsters and talents and so forth, right? They're in the 10 to 12 million range. So already just off those, there's 500 million people visited job sites in December.
How many of them are applying now?
The numbers on that are hard to, I can't give you specifics on that now, but lots. What I can tell you,
I would imagine there's a lot of frustrated people in December over the holidays who are thinking, it might be a good time to see what's out there, right? But how many of them are responding?
So I'm not going to go into too much specifics, but what I can tell you, in my previous life at Broadbean, obviously I run a company that was the largest job distribution company in the world. So to put that into context, we used to post a job about every second, about 40 million jobs a year, right? And we would do that in 180 countries for 5,000 customers.
Okay.
Now, we would handle anything up to 20 million applications a month. So that gives you some idea on the volume numbers. Now, I'm going to go back to what I said to you. 500,000 visitors to job boards in December. So, when people say to me job boards are dead, no, I don't think so. 500,000 people are going there. People are applying. But you know what? They're all seeing the same content. They're all seeing the same type of job. That's frustrating. Let's go back to being a little bit creative. So the question you asked me is, where would I post my jobs? And I think it really depends on the job you're looking for. So,
No, how do I post my jobs?
Or how do you post your jobs?
More importantly. You can figure out which site to do it. And this is going to be a commercial for where to post it, but more of a, how do I go about identifying what are the best avenues to do it? Mm-hmm. There's different ways to post, right? I guess I learned a different way from you, which is what you guys do, but I could just basically buy a job spot and post it, right? And then that's spray and pray, right? That's just hoping that somebody responds to that.
So I think if you're doing this on a one-off basis and you just want a rough idea of where you think you should post your jobs, I would always start with a Google search. There's plenty of data out there about and numbers as to, and a quick Google search will tell you, certain job boards have got a penchant or a specific niche that they work in. So we know Dice, for example, is always historically known as a tech
board
play, right? We know Indeed started off doing everything, and there are various companies around. You can't go anywhere nowadays. You can't listen to any podcast, probably even including this one, without an ad for ZipRecruiter. So if you're looking for somebody that's a little hard to find, or you're looking for somebody in a local market, Zip are on every radio show. They're on every podcast.
Yeah.
Presumably on this one at some point as well.
No,
right?
no.
Okay. Currently. And
no, they're not.
And so you get an idea of where to post based on that. But if you run a Google search, we'll get some really good ideas of what job boards are good for certain things.
So outside of a job board, right?
Yeah.
How else can I get my message out there? There's social. Mm-hmm. So I can, but again, I think that really goes back to the content that you're writing. It's not about, hey, here's what we're looking for. It's more about, hey, here's what we can give you.
Yeah. So I think social
what's in it for me.
Right. So I think social is a great way to promote your jobs. So whether that's, sharing it to your LinkedIn profile, whether it's posting something to Instagram, whether it's sending something out to Facebook, wherever, making a video on TikTok, it doesn't really matter. The point is that, but it's the quality of the content. What we see way too much in the talent field is people writing a status update that says, hey, I'm looking for one of these, click on this link, and it takes you to some boring form.
Yeah.
And the interaction,
and then have you fill out an application, right?
And the interaction with that is like negligible. Nobody's interested, right? So the people that work are the ones that have been a bit creative. So I've seen some really interesting things recently, particularly on Instagram, where people have like taken a picture of the team, and it's been a funny photograph, and it might be for a bar, and it's like, hey, come join us. Now it only takes the group of people that work there to share that, and all of a sudden the aggregate number of people that are going to see that posting. And if it's funny or amusing or creative or interesting, you do this strange thing on social. We do this strange thing on social where we go @ and we add Rick, and then you open your phone and you go, oh, somebody's asked me to look at this, so then you see it, then you think it's funny, and so there is this sort of expansion effect if you put the time and energy into it. The problem with a lot of people in the talent acquisition phase is they just see it as an admin chore. They don't really put any time and attention. That's not everybody. There are some people that do this amazingly well, but they're in the small minority.
Sure. Okay. So let's talk about programmatic advertising. What is it specifically?
So programmatic advertising, so it's got a number of descriptions of sales points. Let's just break it down for everybody. Realistically, it's a different way of charging for a job posting.
Okay. So it's a pay per performance.
It's a pay per performance
model,
and there's different layers of that. So we are used to paying for a job posting, and we're essentially paying for a duration. It's one job for 7 days or 30 days or whatever it is, and that's it, whether it works or not. A programmatic advert is, here is a job, and I am buying views on that job at this rate, and you've got complete flexibility. So you're no longer paying for duration.
Do you have the ability to target the people who see that?
Absolutely.
Oh.
You target it. So if anyone's ever done any sort of Google AdWords type advertising, you're going to target in the same fashion. You're putting the bid in to place your ad at the top of the list, essentially. So you'll compete with other people, and then you can target for certain demographics. You can target certain locations. You can target for certain skill sets, and your advert will be pushed out there. But the one-on-one thing for me is total flexibility of what you want to spend on the job, how long you want to spend on it, when you stop spending on it, and that's a sliding scale. So, for example, I know if I've had 10 people apply for my job, I'm probably going to maybe interview 2 of those and hire 1, or interview 3 and hire 1. I might stop spending it.
Got it.
I could leave it running if I chose to. But it gives you complete flexibility. Now, for me, programmatic is great for companies that are doing a lot of hiring, or for staffing companies that it's their lifeblood to generate candidate responses, to talk to people.
So they need a pretty high volume of candidate flow.
I mean, you don't need to, but it's probably not worth the investment to set up for the odd job. You're better off going down the traditional job.
No, but if it's
route.
a key hire, it would make sense to me that you would probably want to just target certain individuals and make sure they see your messaging.
Right, but if it's
just not cost effective that way?
I don't think it is.
Okay.
I think if you place a key hire job onto a traditional job board, your LinkedIn or your Monsters or your Career Builders or wherever, then you're going to
get much.
Do you not think so? Your experiences, you don't get much?
I mean, I'm at the executive level, so I don't see too many people responding. But I haven't posted on job boards in a long time.
So if you look at the Glassdoor survey, the average number of responses, if you aggregate the jobs over last year, was 250 responses per job.
Okay.
Right, so it comes down to, I think, the capability to attract somebody when you write the job.
So is this not something that would really be viable for, say, an entrepreneur who's just got funding and they've got maybe 10 to 20 recs they need to fill pretty quickly?
Absolutely perfect for that.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah, it's absolutely perfect for that, because what you can do is you can take your 10 to 15 jobs, you can push those jobs out to a programmatic provider or an agency or whoever you're working with to do that. And then you can slide your bids accordingly, for which is the most important thing. Now,
this isn't something you can do directly with the various job boards, though, right?
You would go to a programmatic provider.
Okay.
And you would do it via one of those. So whether that's a Jovio, a ClickCast, an Appcast, a Pringo, one of these platforms, and we can put them in the show notes if you like, a list of them.
Okay.
But you can put your jobs in there and you can push them out. And particularly if you're a startup, and using that example, you're looking to hire 10 or 15 people. one of the nice things about programmatic is you can specifically bid on a particular job. So typically if you put say 10 jobs into a pay-per-click campaign, your money normally gets spent on the easy to fill jobs.
Sure.
When you're getting into the programmatic level, you can dial the bid down on the easy to fill jobs and increase it on the more difficult ones. So essentially it's like going out to the marketplace with a bullhorn and saying, I am buying applications for driver jobs for 60 cents a view.
Okay.
Whereas, maybe another job that's perhaps easier to fill, you might say, well, I'm actually only paying 20 cents on this one.
Okay. So you're only paying for the results of the views.
Yeah. And there are some companies that will charge you not on views, but just on the application. Now, that's a much higher rate. They will maybe charge you somewhere between $10 to $50 per application. So you're not paying to post your job. You're not paying every time somebody looks at your job. You're only paying when somebody actually completes the application form.
Oof.
And I don't like that word, by the way. I don't like the word application form.
I don't either, and I don't like the word job posting either. But I think that's what most people put up. All right, you're listening to the Higher Power Radio Show. I'm Rick Girard. For our podcast listeners, we're going to take a quick educational moment for our sponsors. Check out what we do at stridesearch.com. There you'll find additional resources and information and how you can book me to speak at your next meeting or conference. Our guest today is Kelly Robinson. He's the CEO of RedDot Media, and we're talking about how to post jobs and specifically programmatic job advertising, because I think a lot of people just don't know that this even exists. I didn't know until I really met you a few months back.
And I think people that are doing high volume hiring have been reading and hearing more about it. It's now starting to filter down to everyone.
Is it a hot buzzword in the recruiting industry right now?
I think so. And I want to dispel the myths, because there's a lot of sales blurb out there about programmatic, right? The reality is that if you're a high volume or you run an agency, you should be investigating it for sure, because it's cost effective. It's going to expand your reach. It's great for your brand. You could be highly targeted. So you absolutely want to look at it for that. If you're hiring one person every couple of months, then you're better off finding the right job board partners to do that. I am a massive advocate and believer that job posting posting a job advert is a simple and incredibly effective way to attract people that are interested in potentially working for your company. And I think where a lot of people go wrong, and you mentioned it yourself, is you get no applications. Right, so let's start with writing the correct job, being a little creative, thinking about what is somebody looking for, what questions they want answered when they see a job, being specific about what do you need to be considered for this role. Not just a list of skills, but this is what you're going to be doing for this company, and this is what we need in order to do that. And then when somebody applies...
So we're talking about really the first step in before you even go to post an ad right now.
Yeah.
I mean, I know what people want. They want to know what's in it for them. How you gonna fix their current problem? Because most people are already in jobs,
right?
And they're according to Gallup, they're pretty dissatisfied. 70% of workers right now are dissatisfied in their current roles, something like that. I didn't get the newest Gallup statistics. Have you checked that out yet?
No.
Okay, but I mean, still, you have a really high job dissatisfaction rate,
right?
So you got to be something better than what they already have. But the other thing is companies are doing a really good job of keeping people busy. Yep. So they don't have time to look for anything right now.
Right.
So you got to catch them in those off times.
But I mean, for anyone who's been involved in sourcing, and I know you are, and I'm sure there's many people that are listening that are involved in the talent acquisition or recruitment field, sourcing is time consuming, and it's harder and harder to get people to engage with your messaging and to, and certainly to take a phone call.
Sure.
Right. So the way I look at job advertising is I'm going out there and I'm posting a reason why somebody should come work for the company. But then when I get an apply or somebody says they're interested, I'm looking at that as just an expression of interest. This is not an application. It's purely an expression of interest. And that expression of interest to me is, hey, I've read the job description or I've read the job advert. I'd be quite interested in the conversation. And I think one of the things that we need to do is to stop thinking about it as this person's applied for this job. It's this person's actually said, you can have a conversation with me. And as recruitment people that are sourcing, isn't that what we want? We want to have a conversation with people.
Well, we do. We should, but we don't. Most people, I mean, most recruiters like to just kind of text and deal with others via messaging, right? I mean, but more importantly, if you're an executive, you don't want to be just like everybody else and do the same thing as well. You don't want to just message them. You want to have a conversation.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the messaging's a precursor to a conversation. I don't know of any hiring that's done, or very minimal that's done without some sort of conversation during the process.
Oh, yeah, 100%. You have to have a conversation.
I mean, there are extremes, and there are certain jobs where they just hire everybody, and I get that. But generally, there's a conversation that takes place. And the way I see job advertising is it should be part of your strategy, particularly if you're hiring a lot of people. It should absolutely be part of your strategy. The job advert goes out there, some people come and say, hey, we're interested. It's just an expression of interest. It's just a reason to have a conversation. And then we talk to that person to see if they're relevant. Now, if you get that job advert right and you're very specific around what you need to do the job, you're not going to get a load of wasted applications.
You know, the mindset that you're talking about really is something that I think everybody should really bid into, is that they're not applicants anymore.
Nope.
Are there really applicants? I think they're really people who are just, you've piqued their interest.
Exactly.
So treat them that way.
Right.
Because quite frankly, nobody wants to be treated like an applicant.
And
they're treated differently in most companies.
Completely right. They're constantly talking about this.
Yeah.
Right? The fact that we still, if you want to burn a few calories, right, just stop and go and apply for like 10 jobs this week. It's a miserable experience. Let me tell you, it's a miserable experience. We've taken what was an old-fashioned 1980s approach to applying for a job, the 4-page application form, and we've just stuck it online, and nobody wants to do that anymore. Nobody's interested.
Nope.
They want to go, you know what, I quite like that job. Can you talk to me about it? Or can I ask a few questions about it? And engage with somebody, and maybe it's the right role, maybe it's not. So, when we talk about job postings, for me, it's this is a commercial for potentially working for this company and potentially doing this job. If you're interested, let me know. Let's have a conversation, or let me at least answer your questions.
All right, so have a lot of conversations with why is it important to have these conversations?
Why is it important to have these conversations?
Yeah, because I think people don't know sometimes.
So for me, what do you want to do, right? I don't want somebody to apply for the job. I don't want to try and talk somebody into taking a job. Our role in the recruitment world is to speak with somebody and figure out if the right thing for them is to quit their job and come and work for my company or my client, right?
Sure.
So we're just clearing a path for the candidate and the customer, or the candidate and the client, or the candidate and job to come together. That's all we do.
The candidate is the customer, really. If you think about it, if you're trying to hire somebody, that's your customer.
Yep.
You should give excellent customer service.
Absolutely.
And I'm so with you 100%. I get a call a week, probably, at least. Somebody's just going, hey, can I pick your brain for a minute? What's the best way for me to get an interview at this company I'm trying to get into? My first response is, don't respond back to the job website. Don't fill out their application. Find out who's going to be your hiring manager and go to that person first.
And that's a beautiful example.
Yeah.
If you look at some of the recent stats on LinkedIn, it says 85% of people get their candidates through get their jobs through networking, right? Which when you dive into the data, and somebody once educated me that, data it depends on the lens you look through to view the data. Now, the number actually 85, when you looked at the underlying data, was probably closer to 40 to 50%. But how do those 40 to 50% of people even know the job existed? They saw some job posting somewhere, and then they reach out to you, or they reach out to somebody else, and they network their way in. So there's an aggregate benefit for running a job advert that people just don't take, or they try and dismiss.
So very
But
true.
it brings it to people's attention, and then they start the process.
Yep, absolutely.
And why do they start the process? Because they want to avoid that 10-page application form.
Yeah, and as soon as you put that hurdle there, they're gone. All right, so as always, this show goes by really fast. What would be a few key takeaways that you'd want to give the audience with that can help them, that they can plug into their business today? So
there's a quote seeing as you started with your Canadian philosopher, there's a quote that I like, which is the genius of and versus the tyranny of or. So it's job posting is not I'm going to do this or this. It's just an and. It's just part of it.
I'm going to do this and this and
Absolutely.
This. So it's an add-on.
Exactly.
So it's not the holy grail, but it is something that you have to do.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Get better at writing job adverts. Make an effort. Be creative. Try different things. Do something interesting. See what works. A/B test. Make it a skill that you become proud of. If you get really good at this, and your role in hiring people is to write a job description and 3 perfect people turn up, how much easier is your life?
You know what's interesting is I started doing this a few years ago, where I just team up with somebody in marketing who's a content writer, and I'd work with them and have them help me write the content.
Absolutely.
Because quite frankly, like, that's it's marketing content.
Exactly.
Right.
And then a couple other points. I think when somebody responds to that job advert, think of it as they've just given me permission to talk to them. They're not necessarily applying, but they've given me permission. I mean, they are applying, but they've given me permission to talk to them. We've got to figure out if it's the right job. And you know this as well as I do. The one thing that candidates are really frustrated with, or our customers are really frustrated with, is I apply for a job and I never hear anything. Yeah. That black hole syndrome. Let's fix that, please.
Yeah. It doesn't take that much to pick up the phone and call somebody. You know what's interesting that comes out of those conversations is that if you have the right conversation with that person, you can determine whether or not they're a fit, and you can mutually do that and give them closure if they're not. But you can ask for referrals.
Exactly.
Boom.
Yeah.
They're good. That gets you to your 85%.
Yeah. And also you speak to that person, but if they're not the right person, maybe they sit next to the person who is the right person, and you can have the conversation, and also they make the referral. I mean, a whole chunk of jobs get filled by referrals, right?
So it happens all the time.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, we're just about out of time for today's show. Kelly, thanks so much for your time investment today, and I want to welcome you to the Higher Power Radio community. Now, what would be the best way that members of our community or people who are watching on the LinkedIn live stream could find you?
So LinkedIn at Kelly J. Robinson, or at Twitter, which is where I'm at most of my time. Also at Kelly J. Robinson.
All right, perfect. And you want to give your URL for your company?
So it's red.media.co.
Red.media.co.
Yeah, any questions? If anybody wants to find out any more, I know we're going to do some show notes and takeouts, but you can drop me a note and I will answer. I actually, and as you know, because I've told you this, I do respond to every single LinkedIn message and direct.
I know you're a much better person than I am, because I don't.
That's because I used to be a salesperson for many years.
I was too.
I know, but so I feel sorry for them. So I respond to everybody, literally everybody.
You're such a better person than me.
I've got more friends in Indian outsourcing companies you could possibly imagine.
Oh, I don't doubt that one bit. All right. Well, I want to thank our listening audience for tuning into this week's episode of Higher Power. A quick thanks to our team, our engineer Decker, our producers, Andrea Ballin, Shanti Ryle, and Ayla Gerard. If you're listening to the podcast, please subscribe, review, and share. We welcome your feedback. We love it. And, we're just trying to make it better for you. So any ideas on content, please let us know as well. You can join the Higher Power Radio community at Higher, that's H-I-R-E, Power, P-O-W-E-R, radio, R-A-D-I-O.com. Or you can drop me an email at rick@stridesearch.com. I promise I'll respond back to those.
Great job.
All right, tune in next week. Our guest is going to be Yves Laroussi. He is the CEO of Checkster. I'm your host, Rick Gerard, and you have been listening to the Higher Power Radio Show. Aloha.
Thank you for listening to Higher Power Radio.
Catch our LinkedIn Live show
every Tuesday at noon, or download the podcast on iHeartRadio every Tuesday at noon, or download the podcast on iHeartRadio.
We appreciate you joining us on Higher Power Radio with your guide. We appreciate you joining us on Higher Power Radio with your guide to recruitment success. Rick Gerard.